hopefully you guys can see my screen here. So as I said, this is JAMAR Technologies. My name is Brendan. This is the STARnext Software and how you're going to help address speeding complaints by using our new STARnext Software program. So let's get started. So what we want to do here is like I said just a second ago, we're going to do a super quick webinar, 15, 20 minutes tops. If you guys know me or you've been on one of my webinars before, you know that my strong suit is not short webinars. But I practiced this one. I told myself it's not going to be more than 20 minutes long. So I don't have a clock running, but we'll see what at the end what the final time is. Well, yeah, we're going to just keep it super quick. So who we have on the call here is a mix of our customer types. So we have a lot of law enforcement, which is going to include police departments, sheriff's offices, highway patrols, any law enforcement agencies that are dealing with traffic and speeding and speeding complaints, that type of thing. I use the term police department almost universally, which I know a lot of people don't, so I apologize. I try to use law enforcement. It's a little more inclusive, but if I do slip up and call everyone the police department, I apologize. I'm not doing it on purpose, and I know there's a difference between all the agencies. But so law enforcement agencies, and then we have their state, county, and city. So we're talking the traffic engineers, public works departments, traffic departments. A lot of the times, these departments are dealing with speeding complaints. They're the ones having to, even if they're not dealing directly with the complaint from the resident, you're dealing with the aftermath of it. You're dealing with the, hey, people want speed bumps and they want stop signs and they want all this type of stuff to slow down the traffic. So basically, it's a collaborative effort is what it comes down to between law enforcement and the other city, state, and county agencies. And I'm seeing a lot of that these days. I'm seeing a lot of departments call me and say, hey, police department's going to put it, the law enforcement agency is going to put up the radar, and then we, the engineering department, we're going to process the data, and sometimes even vice versa. So also what I want you guys to be is the messengers for this. So if you're one of those agencies and the other one, your counterpart within your city, isn't aware of this type of stuff or isn't on this call, let them know. Send them an email with our link or something like that. Let them know that this type of equipment's available and that you guys can work together and collaborate on that. So I'm going to talk briefly about our hardware. This is not a hardware webinar. I don't want to get into all the details and the ins and outs of our hardware, but I at least want to let you know what exists. And basically, we have two options for data collection, which is collecting the speed and traffic data. We have our Black Cat 2 radar, and we have what we call our LE radar, law enforcement radar. They're very similar. They have a lot of similar characteristics, but there are some subtle differences between the units, how they're set up, how they're programmed. Some say one's easier than the other. I think personally it's all just personal preference. Most agencies that are engineers, public works, traffic departments that collaborate directly with the law enforcement agencies, they tend to go with the Black Cat 2 radar because it's more of a universal. It offers more in the traffic side of things as well. Some options that maybe police departments might maybe a little more than what they need in some cases, but the traffic guys would pick up on that real quick. So a lot of times when they're collaborating directly, it's the Black Cat. If it's just the police department, just the law enforcement agency that's in it, the law enforcement radar, LE radar, is going to do awesome. It's quick, it's easy, gets you just about everything you need. So there are some differences. So really what it comes down to is we could do a whole webinar, and we have done full webinars just on the radars and the difference. But what it comes down to is what's the best one for you? Are you going to be doing law enforcement? Are you going to be doing traffic engineering? Or are you going to be doing a combination? And this slide I'll put back up at the end. I don't expect anybody to see this or take this all in right now. It's a lot of information. But we have a sales team is the point of all this. And our guys are absolute experts. We've been doing this for a long, long time. We go to all the police shows, all the conferences, all the law enforcement organization groups. So we hear what you guys are dealing with, and we know we have a good solution for you. So I'll put this back up at the end, but I want to make sure you know we've got a really experienced sales team here. I mean, everybody on this list has been doing this for each person probably close to 10 years. So, I mean, we got more experience than we know what to do with sometimes. So give us a call and we'll help you figure out what unit is the best for you hardware-wise. So with that, I want to jump into the software, which is really what we're here for. So you saw before we had two hardware units. Regardless of the unit you use, we have one powerful software system. So both of those units are going to download into our brand new STARnext software. This is a program that was just released within the year. A lot of you may be familiar with our Trax Pro software. That was an industry standard for a long time. A lot of you guys got used to that. This has replaced that. So if you're using Trax Pro, you're going to want to do an upgrade to STARnext. So you could call our guys. I'll have all the information at the end and get that upgraded. It's a great investment, and you'll see why in a minute here. If you're new to our equipment in general and you're tuning in for the first time, maybe you just purchased this stuff or you're getting it going for the summer, you may have never even known Trax Pro existed. You started right with STARnext. That's great. So this will help you as well. The process is still the same. So the point there is if you're using Trax Pro now, jump up to STARnext. If you're starting right with STARnext, you're ahead of the game right away. So this one here, the big questions we want to ask ourselves when we talk about speeding complaints. So if we really get down to the nitty-gritty, you got your residents calling and they're giving you speeding complaints, and you got to figure out how to resolve this. What I always say to people is the hardware. You saw how quick I'm passing over the hardware. Yes, it's important. Yes, I believe ours is the most accurate, efficient, user-friendly way to collect that data. But in reality, you can collect data in almost any way. That's what this picture is. You could stand out there with a pencil and paper and hold a radar gun, or you could hold a stopwatch with 2 painted lines on the road. There's all types of things that you could do that would get you data, but it would be wildly inconvenient. So our hardware units are going to do all that hard work for you. But yes, you can stand out there. There's inferior units. There's less expensive units. And like I said, there's pencil and paper and a stopwatch if you wanted to. But ultimately, the big questions we want to answer are, what are you going to do with that data when you get it? And how is that data going to help you solve your problem? And I think a lot of people they forget about that second one. They get caught up in, well, I got this hardware and it's got a battery life and it's got a memories and it's got a flux capacitor and gigawatts, all types of crazy stuff that ultimately doesn't really matter to the end user. What you want is data that's going to help you solve your problem, and that's what matters. So if you're out there with a pencil and paper, you're going to come back in and have this kind of look. So best case scenario, you're seeing yourself like this in the mirror and thinking, what have I done? Worst case scenario, your boss is looking at you like this, and that's never a good thing. So we don't want that. So those are the big questions. What are you going to do with the data when you get it, and how is it going to help you solve your problem? So I'm fast forwarding. I've collected the data with my radar recorder. I've dumped it in the STARnext. This is a couple of minutes. We do have videos on how to do all that stuff as well, which I'll tell you about at the end. But ultimately, within just 2 or 3 clicks, you're going to open this software and go into what we call police reports. And this is going to be one of your first options. It's called the speed data analysis. And so this screen is really just a slide. It's not anything live, so I'm not going to be able to pull it back and forth. But I just want to show you what it looks like as you're building this. You can see this is an incomplete report. This is drag and drop functionality. So this over here, if you can see my mouse, on the right side is the preview of what you're building, and you drag these various items over to that, and you can reorganize them, and it drops over to here to give you this report. And let me show you. This is an example of what it would look like when you're finished. And this is, I'm saying, you're not doing any processing, you're not doing any analysis, you're not crunching numbers with the calculator. You're opening the software and clicking literally 2 buttons, and you've got essentially this report right here that you see on the screen. And what this is going to do when you think about those 2 questions, what are you going to do with that data when you get it? Well, this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to put it into a format within a matter of minutes that is going to be usable for my residents in the town that I work in, for the city council if they're getting complaints, for the mayor, for the police chief, for anyone. It's going to be instantly. You have this data in a usable, readable, understandable format, and you can pick and choose what's on that report or what's not on that report, as you saw on that last drag and drop. So basically, What are you going to do with the data? You're going to do something like this. How is it going to help you solve your problem? Well, if you're dealing with speeding complaints, I hope you're already looking at this and you're already seeing how this is going to solve your problem. You're handing this out right to the resident and saying, hey, look, this is what we've done. This is either does or does not justify more enforcement than what we already have in this area. So you're going to decide you either do have a problem and you've got to address it, or you don't have a problem, or the problem doesn't justify any more than what you've already have scheduled for that area. Either way, you're kind of covering your backside, for lack of a better phrase. You just the idea that you have this data on file, you've generated an action and a result, and now you have that. God forbid something terrible happens on these roadways. Nobody's saying, oh, well, we called the police department about this 1,000 times and they never did anything. Well, guess what? Yes, you did. And you did it on this date at this time, and these were your results. So that's the speed data analysis. You're going to love that one. That's one of our most popular reports. The other one we're going to get into that you'll use very often is the Speed Enforcement Evaluator. So again, this is a screen of having all this set up. You can see very easy, just the same idea. There's a print preview over here, and you essentially build this report by putting in these parameters here. And you can see there's check boxes for including or not including. So as much or as little information as you want to be shown. For example, you'll see on the left side where you have the data, there's a posted speed limit and an enforcement or a speed tolerance. A lot of times you might not want people to know what your tolerance is. You might not have a tolerance. So we want to give you the tools to collect this data, but we're not in a position to tell you what's a problem and what's not a problem. That's your call to make. So if you know your speed limit is 35 miles per hour, you might pull someone over when they're doing 36. That's your business. That's your policy. You do what you need to do. Another agency might say, hey, well, we're a little more flexible. We're not going to pull anybody over until 40 or 40, 45 or whatever the number might be. So let's say it's the speed limit is 35. Your tolerance is 10 miles per hour. You're not going to pull them over unless they're doing 45 or above. You don't want anything under 45 to show up as an enforceable speed because by your department standard, it's not. 45 and below is not enforceable. So you put that tolerance in there, and it takes that out of the data. It basically says only show us the problems that are 45 miles per hour or more. That way you're not getting bogged down with a bunch of nonsense that isn't even going to make a difference to you. And then let's say you use that tolerance, you can uncheck that and turn that off. So it's not even shown on the report because sometimes that's going to bring more questions. The residents are just going to be looking for things to say, well, why about this? What about that? So you might want it calculated in there, but not necessarily shown. So again, we give you all the tools to do that, but we're going to let you have the freedom on what your procedures are and how you do it. We just want to give you all those options. Before I show you what the final report of this looks like, I want to jump into this one little bit. You'll see on here we have analyze school zones. So this is going to be something when we talk about being collaborative with the different agencies within a city. The traffic engineering people oftentimes are worried about school zones and how they're going to engineer those. We do have this, and this could be a whole webinar in itself, but we have that little checkbox. You open it up and this edit school zone window pops up. And basically you can say at this, whatever times that you select on this road that you're collecting data on, there is a school zone. And at certain times it's going to flash and say 15 miles per hour or 10 miles per hour. So that's going to alter your data, obviously. So you don't want that factored in and giving you incorrect results. So you can say, okay, don't include those time periods here. So that way you're not altering your data. And the inverse is true as well. You do the opposite of that and say, only show me my school zones and my speeds in those school zones. So now you have an idea, when those lights are flashing. I know around here where we are in Pennsylvania, you go through a school zone, it's almost guaranteed there's a police officer parked in that school zone, just waiting for those people that are going to go flying by there, and they do it. It blows my mind that they do it every day. But for some reason, people think they're going to do it. But this will help you if you don't have the resources or the ability to have somebody sitting out in the school zone every day for 2 hours. This is going to let you know what type of problem you have if you do and if you don't. So that's something you want to just keep in the back of your mind. It's part of this report, super useful. And again, our reps can go over that in much more detail with you. So getting back to this is the final, this is that speed enforcement evaluator. So that screen I was just showing you 2 screens before. There's a couple different ways to have these output. And you can see one is a graph with a table. and the other is kind of a linear. And again, this could be something that you could hand out directly to a resident that's complaining. So they call you with a problem, you go out and do your bit, and then this is what you find. So you can hand this right to them, again, showing as much or as little information as you want to show. So there's a lot of this stuff, enforcement tolerance, enforcement limit, that doesn't even have to be on there. But what you want to stress is, look, we've got these speeds, we've got our average speed, here's our fastest speed, we have it's a problem or it's not a problem. And again, you define all of these color codes. So what might be in the green zone or the yellow or orange zone for one department might be different for someone else. And on the previous screen, you're going to have defined what those are, what designates a problem for you. So this is two of the other handouts that you'll use, or the printouts that you'll use very often, and that's a speed enforcement evaluator. So some of these other ones, again, could be absolute webinars on their own. So I'm going to cruise through these. I just want you to know that these exist. Best times to enforce. So remember when I said, what are you going to do with this data? How's it going to help you solve the problem? So let's say you collect this data and you find out that there is no problem, or there's not a bigger problem than what you already knew, essentially. That's when those reports I just showed you come in. You kind of show what you've done, you cover your butt, and you say, hey, this is our scenario, our situation. But now let's say there is a problem. You say, holy mackerel, I didn't know there is a lot of speeding going on out here. It's nuts. Now you face the question of how you're going to resolve that. How are you going to fix that? So best times to enforce. You put all of your studies. So you're going all around your town. You're doing these super quick, super easy radar studies with our hardware, dumping them into the software. Maybe you're not even processing them yet. You're just dumping them all in. What's happening behind the scenes is you're essentially creating a database. And when you say now that the chief or someone says, okay, we need somebody to target enforce an area, and you've got 2 hours today to do it. So you go in this program and you tell it, I got 2 hours today. It brings up all your data and tells you where to be, what location, what's the best 2-hour window, what side of the road to be on. So now you're really focusing your efforts. You're not going to say, yeah, this road gets a lot of speeding complaints, so let me go out there and just sit and see what happens. You're going to look at this and you're going to say, this road gets a lot of speeding complaints, and the peak ones are between 3 and 5 p.m., or the peak ones are between 2 and 3 p.m., whatever the number is. And then you say, that's when I'm going to go out there. And that's exactly what you do. And now you've just increased your potential to actually make a difference and see some of these people breaking the law that you're going to need to take care of. So best times to enforce. That one's got a lot more detail than what this page is showing you. But I want you to be aware that it exists. This one too. This one can go forever. Enforcement scheduler. So now that you know where the problems are, what you do is you open this window and you add a before study. And basically you're going to set that location for enforcement. You've got officers' reports before and after, so you can give those to the chief, give those to the city council, and those are more like an internal thing to say, hey, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going to be, here's what's assigned, here's what the weather conditions were, whatever environmental factors might play into things. But basically, you're going to have that enforced, and it's the same thing. It's a database, so you can come on here at any time and say, show me the next available place that I should be. I got some time today, and it's going to reorganize and sort them and tell you exactly where to be. And again, there's so much into this, because then you can get into the after. You could set up the unit, collect your data with the JAMAR radar, and then do your target enforcement, and then do a second study at that same location. Now you put that in here, you attach it as the after study, and now you're seeing a comparison before and after, and did what you did in the middle work? Did it make a difference? Did your presence for those couple of days get the desired result? So you could do that also if you've got speed signs and speed trailers. JAMAR doesn't offer those. There's a whole philosophy behind that we don't necessarily believe in those items as useful as they might seem. But a lot of agencies prove that. We tell them, well, hey, put your JAMAR radar out, then put your speed sign out, and then put your JAMAR radar out again, and let's see if there's any difference. I'll spoil the movie for you. There's usually not a difference. But when you put the officers out there is a difference when you follow that up, and that's what you'll start to see here. And the key to remember is you're putting your officers out there at the exact right times too. You're not just putting them out there, you're putting them out there when you know it matters the most, and you're generating the result that you need, which is you're going to see before and after studies of data that's been improved. Moving right along, there's so many other things. keep in mind, STARnext Software is a full-on traffic engineering program. So the DOTs, the cities, the federal highways, the counties, the engineering firms, they're doing stuff that some of us can't even dream of that with this data. I mean, the real deal stuff, much more than speeding complaints or just traffic volumes. It's all built into that STARnext software. So we utilize that in some of these police reports where we say we don't want to blow your mind and have all types of stuff you have to filter through. But the point I'm making is there's so many ways to make custom reports, custom graphs, custom tables. If you really want to dig into it, it's endless. If you don't want to dig into it, you have exactly what I'm showing you, which is the quick police report button, and everything I've showed you so far is literally 1 or 2 clicks away, right at your fingertips. But if you say, hey, I'm the kind of guy that really likes to dig in here, you're going to be here all day doing that, and you're going to have some fun doing it too if you like it. So tons of options for customized things as well. So basically now, what does it all come down to? So speeding complaint resolved. These are some of the reports we saw. You're handing these out to your residents. You're handing these out to the council. You're showing what you've done. You're showing the chief what you've done. You've done before studies. You've done after studies. You got a good grasp on what's happening here. And now when you go back to your residents, maybe it's a perception problem. You give them these sheets and you say, look, this is what we've done. This is how we've addressed this. And this is how we followed up. Or this does not justify more than what we already do here. And here's why. And you give them that information. Obviously there's a speech that you guys all already know, which is about the perception. You know, you hear that loud car driving down the street. If you don't see it with your own eyes, you got a resident in their house watching TV, and they hear a car that sounds like it's going 1,000 miles an hour. But really, you know, a lot of us know you look out the window, and it's just the biggest hunk of junk you can ever imagine going 3 miles an hour down the road. Just sounds like it's just, doing 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's just a big junk car, really. So there's the perception of that, or the big dump truck that makes that big loud bang when it hits a pothole. But it's a billion-pound dump truck. It's going to make a loud bang no matter what it hits, and it's not necessarily speeding. So you're going to be able to, have that conversation with them and about their perception of what's going on. So if you remember this guy at the beginning, he couldn't believe it. He was looking at himself in the mirror. The chief's looking at him. It was crazy. But look at him now, super happy. Who doesn't want to be this guy, right? So we are starting to wrap it up. I haven't kept an eye on the clock, but I feel like I'm going pretty quick. We'll see. Resources, endless resources. One of the big ones I want to mention, though, is our website, jamartech.com. Go to that. There's a special section for radars, and that is jamartech.com/ATRS radar, and that's automatic traffic recorders radar. So you don't have to necessarily remember that. As you go right to our website, you'll see a section that says radars, and this is exactly what it'll look like. You pick engineering, and you pick law enforcement, and you'll get into a lot of detail there. We also have our YouTube channel. You can get to that. YouTube links are always long and crazy, but if you go to jamartech.com, go to our tutorials page, videos and webinars, you'll be able to link right to our webinar, right to our YouTube channel, and you'll also be able to watch a lot of the videos right there. And these are ones you can see. These are, depending on how big your screen is, you'll see that these are the ones that we kind of went over just now. These are 1 minute to 1 minute and 30 seconds long. I mean, these are real short videos that say, hey, here's what you got to do. Click this, drag this over here, and you got to report. So we're not, you're not investing huge amounts of time to learn this stuff. It's real quick and real easy. So here's the thing I wanted to leave up a little bit. We are recording this, so if you need to kind of pause it on this, but we have all this on our website. So all of our sales rep contact information, you go to jamartech.com, click contact. We've got forums where you can request quotes. We've got forums where you can request contact, forums where you can request support. And this is all of our sales rep. We handle various states, various territories, and we'll get you going to the right person, and they'll answer all your questions. Like I said, if you're thinking about being a customer, we'll make sure you're making the right choice. We'll make sure you're understanding everything. If you are a current customer, we're going to make sure that everything you need is taken care of, and you have the support that you need. Free customer support, free software support, free hardware support. Call us 1,000 times a day if you need to. So that is actually going to be about wrapping it up. Here's our contact information. Most of you, I assume, already have it. The fact that you logged into the webinar is proof of that. But we got our address. We've got a toll-free number. Call us as often as you need to. jamartech.com, jamartech.com. If you have any immediate questions, feel free to email them to me, Brendan, BRENDAN, at jamartech.com. If I'm not the right person that handles your territory, your department, I'll certainly get you right to the person that is. So I think that's about it. That's the last slide there. So I'm going to let everybody go. I hope this was in the time frame that I promised. Thank you all for joining in. If you have any questions, this was a super quick overview, but our people here are ready to go over it to you specific with your department's needs. Give us a call. Don't hesitate. I hope everybody's good, looking for a great holiday weekend. Be safe, have fun, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, everybody.